So we'll see. All right. We are technically live, people. I think technology is working. Fingers crossed. We are simultaneously on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram Live. And I am wearing pajama bottoms. Oh, I'm having trouble streaming to Instagram. All right. Well, all good. Um, okay. We're going to keep going, though, because the good people of LinkedIn and Facebook, I just said that in weird Facebook, are tuning in. And also, I am recording this video and we'll share it afterwards. Let's see if we have any problems with sound. So, Amy, my caller for today, my dear, lovely, brave caller, can you hear me? And let's just have you introduce yourself and maybe just say a couple of things about how you're feeling right now. And then, fingers crossed, everyone can hear you. So, if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself with the details that you feel comfortable sharing, that would be awesome. Yeah. I'm going to say something that will be incredibly infuriating, but hear me out. You are right where you need to be. You are right where you need to be, and it's so annoying to just go. There we go. Okay, I got a thumbs up on Facebook that I think you could be heard. Oh, people, they couldn't hear the caller, so I'm gonna just state out loud what you said. So this is interesting. Good to know that in the future you're gonna have to attend. Let's just see. I might invite you, and then you can keep your camera off. So I think that's what we're gonna do here, if you don't mind. Thanks everybody for sticking around. I was hoping I could do a um, actually, you know what? You could call me. You could call me on my phone right now because you have my number. So one, yeah, call me on the phone, and I'm gonna do because guys, just so you all know, so while you're calling me, Amy, I'm gonna tell everybody what we're doing here is live coaching with very brave callers who I want to protect their identifying details. So we're keeping them anonymous. Amy is not her name, technically. And so a way to do that is she's gonna be calling me. Okay, all right. So now we're going to try this one more time. So for my patient people, let me ask you all to stick around because Emily and Athena said they couldn't hear you. So let's have you say what's going on for you, and I am gonna. I have your phone. I just accidentally showed your number for a quick second, but I just removed that. So tell me again what has been going on with you, and I will edit this all to make it look nice in the video.
Yeah, sure. So I just entered my 40s, and I'm just generally feeling behind. I've been working in the same industry for a really long time, 17 years. I'm incredibly burnt out from it, and I have nothing to show for it. It's a pretty much notorious low paying industry. I think I've worked paycheck to paycheck most of my life, and I'm just at this point where I'm feeling so frustrated about it. And I feel like there is something bigger for me to be doing, and I just don't know what that is. And anytime I start to think about it, I feel really overwhelmed and I feel really scared. And I sort of then get more stuck and I can't move forward. And, I think about I don't know what a new career would look like. I don't know even know where to start. And then, of course, wanting to bring some more financial abundance into the equation, and just sort of, figuring out how to manage this feeling of really being behind and feeling like it's a little late and not knowing what to do with all of that.
Sorry to make you relive all of that, having you now state your answer one more time for everybody, but I think everything happens for a reason. And when you hear yourself say these things, by the way, how does it feel when writing in to me, saying it out loud, you know how to say it twice? What's coming up for you, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, I'll say that even writing into you, it was like it felt like a first step of actually doing something about this feeling. And I felt really proud of myself. I almost did it. It was this sort of like sticky feeling. And then I did, and I was like, okay, wow, good for you. You did this thing. You did this tiny thing. And then I got picked. And so, it makes me feel, I'm proud of myself for doing that. And it's sort of giving me like a little bit of a fire that, okay, if I do something about it, things can happen.
Wow, you literally said the exact word I wanted you to say, which is fire, actually, because I want to see what we're building here is we're starting a little fire, and then you have to tend to the fire so it can grow. And what's great about this moment of your life is, and this is for anybody who's feeling, I don't know, lots of ways, stuck, frustrated, disappointed, confused, overwhelmed, anxious, etc. This is an exact opportunity to be incredibly intentional about your life and all avenues of your life. And the only way you're going to make any change is through action. And there's no wrong action, but I'm going to give you some direct steps that you can take so that you at least start to see progress, or at least feel progress, which is really important. I also want to challenge you on the nothing to show for it. I know I have a feeling you really just sort of meant it financially, but I hope that feeling doesn't bleed into the whole thing is a wash for you. I just want to confirm, like, are you feeling like a lot of stuff is a waste or just financially?
I think predominantly financially, it feels like I've gone nowhere in the amount of time I've put into things. I think sometimes it filters over into not feeling really valued and worthy. And I think that kind of also coincides a bit with some compensation. Obviously, when I really sit and think about it, it's like, okay, I've done a lot of stuff within this, but it does feel there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of feelings of like, oh, I actually don't really know a lot about this business. And, those feelings come up too.
The business that you've been in for 17 years?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. If you were a trust fund baby, so you had like infinite funds, do you think you'd be feeling differently?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I'd still be feeling like there's something else maybe.
Yeah. Well, then that goes to show that as much as we need financial security, at the end of the day, we need self-sufficiency, self-security first. And money can help, but it's not everything. Let's talk about next steps here. So you had written into me something about feeling uninspired and unmotivated. We have to get you inspired again. That will create momentum, just like you writing in, then getting picked, then we'll have this call, is creating momentum. You have to keep it going. Back to my analogy of like the fire, we got to stoke the fire. What, before you answer my question here, I'm going to actually throw a different question at you first, because when I say, hey, like, let's get you motivated again, that takes energy. Actually, even though it's going to be a thing that gives you energy, it's a bit of a chicken and the egg, because you have to actually have the energy to do this. I want to ask you first, before we explore what could inspire you and motivate you, is let's talk about time, the actual time that you have in a given week. If you haven't yet done this, I would love for you to do an inventory of all the things. I mean, use Clockify. I'm a big fan. You can use a free version of this, where every time you take an action, you have to write it down. Start getting really, really observational. Like you are a data scientist or just a scientist. By the way, I want to give you a shout out, Amy. Somebody on LinkedIn said, I'm so grateful to the caller for bravely articulating her feelings. I'm in a different career and place, and yet I feel and get what she feels too. Oh, I have chills. Thank you, LinkedIn user.
That makes me happy.
Right? Because that's my whole goal in making this stuff public and transparent, is because I think there's so much wisdom between the two of us in these kinds of calls that could be unlocked and sort of made accessible to so many people, which is what's happening right now. But get really good at observational mode of I am without judgment as best as you can muster. Okay. As best as you can muster, writing down every single thing you do in a given week in a time log. It'll start to be fun when you do this. At first tedious, but then kind of interesting when you're like, ooh, if I were a third party coming in to analyze my work and where my life is going, the next step is to say, how can I make it easier for myself? Where can I find more time and energy that I may not have seen before? This is what people at like McKinsey do, right? They're consultants that come in and search for sort of lapses and deficiencies that you can do. So everything from, am I writing the same emails to people? Can I templatize that? Or if it's an emotional thing, like, man, these kinds of interactions tend to happen that make me feel a certain way. And then I spend quite a bit of time replaying it. That then becomes an area you may not have an answer yet for how to remedy it. I have answers for that, but you at least want to first take the step of identifying where you are spending your time and how we can make it more efficient, both in the time and also in the energy. I want to stop right now and ask you if you have any questions, thoughts, feelings you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, what's so interesting in that, so much of my job is, in a lot of ways, I feel like a therapist to people. I'm in publishing for anybody that wants to know. And so I actually feel like I spend the majority of my day to day outside of actually doing the real assigned tasks I need to do, really having to constantly pivot between very emotionally charged emails and responses. And, it's this like constant, I'm a cheerleader,
Yep.
cheering everybody on. And a lot of my time gets spent that way. And it is so draining that I sometimes, when I do have time to sit down and do like an actual task, I'm completely drained. Or, if I come home or if I'm commuting home, I'm like immediately on my phone. And zoning out.
Let's create a practice of protecting and releasing. I learned this the hard way, which, by the way, can somebody let me know if they've ever learned something not the hard way? Because I seem to literally, I'm like, if I haven't suffered, I don't know what I'm talking about. You mentioned imposter syndrome. I used to have it, and then I went through enough shit where I was like, nah, I've earned. Like, so when you actually, by the way, look at your career and you see the emotional labor that you've done and you say, does that give me credibility? To me, I would say, yes, it does. If you could see it in that lens, it might actually remedy some of the imposter syndrome, by the way. But I learned the hard way in both coaching, but also I was going around the country hosting like massive events for women to talk about their relationship to work and money, which obviously meant a lot of tears. I would be so spent. I would be like sobbing after these events. I needed to find a way to protect and release. Great exercise. I'll start with the release part is when you are done with an interaction. Yeah, somebody on LinkedIn said your emotional bank is drained. Correct. And that's why I always start with the emotional bank before we get to the bank part. Is I go and wash my hands. I say after this interaction, so whether it's, and by the way, it doesn't have to be because it was draining. It's just an exchange of emotions where somebody put their shit on you. You go to the bathroom and you methodically wash your hands, and with sort of do your best to like mindfully, how do I feel, smell, go through all of your senses as you're washing your hands, but really see it as this interaction is over. This chapter is done. It's a simple exercise. It's going to take you 5 seconds and it is hugely impactful. The protecting one that you do before any of these interactions, or actually I recommend doing it at the beginning of the day. If you live in New York City and you're taking the subway, I used to do this where I would listen to music and just imagine I had sort of gold paint that was coating my body. and the paint was shimmery and beautiful, but it was a shield. And my intention was, I want to be a deeply feeling human, but it cannot be at the expense of myself. I cannot come, have this armor be run ragged where I'm destroyed and I have no room left to explore who I am, or I am not these people. But at the same time, I don't want to go into this world and not be a deeply feeling. So try to visualize, both literally visualize like this gold paint, but also inside, if you're getting really woo woo about it, coating your organs, like your heart and your lungs. And because you're absorbing all of this, truly you are. So if you can do that, and that's, 5 minutes at most, don't spend too much time on it. It can be hugely impactful. The other thing to think about, and this is good for anybody, doesn't matter if it's a draining situation or not, but just a way to maintain perspective, is to no longer see yourself truly as yourself, but you are this scientist. I'll go back to that analogy. You are in observation mode. So as much as you are in the moment having these experiences, which is great, you should be in the moment, try to see if there's a way to remind yourself that you can also get into observation mode. Because when you're in observation mode, there's distance between you and the experience. And then when there's distance, you can make more of a choice. You can decide how you want to respond instead of react. And also, it means you're learning. That's what scientists are here for. It's not to necessarily prove a certain hypothesis or is right or wrong, but to say, I'm trying to gather as much information as possible here to better understand who I am, what I want, and the next steps that go with them. But unless you can see things clearly, you will forever be operating off of reaction, emotional reaction. And then you're going to tell yourself some crazy ass stories about imposter syndrome, which make literal no sense when you've been in an industry for 17 years. Like, I wrote a book. I feel like I'm an expert in publishing because I wrote one book. Okay. So like, that's, imposter syndrome to me, or lack of confidence, self-doubt, it's just other words for lack of self-trust. And the first way to get to self-trust is to even understand what is self. Okay. And you cannot see yourself clearly if we are muddling up the noise with all the stories. Observation, raw data, as best as possible, start collecting it. And I think these exercises right off the bat are going to make a huge difference for you. Feel free to push back on me, by the way, if I'm speaking too woo woo and I want to be challenged. So let me know if you have anything you want to share.
No, I love a good woo moment. So I'm into it.
Okay, good. Okay. And then, all right, so we're going to carve up some more space. So maybe you could make a goal of, I am going to find pockets, could be 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 30 minutes here. But by the end of the week, I want to collect a good 60 minutes where I have spent time journaling or reflecting. Usually it's helpful to go for a walk, by the way, and voice memo this stuff, getting back to what inspires me. And so a good question for you in this moment is, what inspired you to get into the industry to begin with?
I went to school for literature and writing, and I wanted to be like in my head. Not that I guess I'll just say it. Like, I thought I would write. I thought I would be a writer. I thought, I had a concentration in creative writing, and I always wrote these poems to myself and these short stories. And it was like, I think I always wanted to be a writer. And in my mind, this was like the closest thing to it. And I obviously loved books.
Yeah.
And just very quickly, that the writing part went completely, it just disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Do you still want that?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I have moments of feeling like, wait, I have stories to tell. Mm-hmm. Or I have something to share in this sort of, it's been creeping up a little more lately. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe I can do it. Like, maybe, I think, again, it's been so long that there's a feeling of, oh, I can't do that. I can't, I don't know how to do that. I can't do it.
Yeah.
That won't work.
Yeah. I also find that
Yeah.
for anybody who's creative, particularly with writing, I felt that way. I know a lot of writers, we all feel this way because it is truly taking up space in the world to write. Like, not only do I have a story to tell, I have a voice to tell it, and I'm going to take your precious time to read it. Like, it's a very intense, Oh, by the way, somebody writes, you are a writer. Every thoughtful email you write, you are a writer. Yes. By the way, yes, I am a writer, but the person I'm talking to on the phone would like to be. Here's the thing. You're a writer if you write. Okay. This is how mediocre white men operate. Like, they say they're an expert, therefore they are, right? But it's a muscle. And you know this really well. It's so ironic, and it often is. You're not the only person to say, "Gosh, I actually know all this stuff," or "I do a lot of this stuff for other people, but I'm having a hard time doing it for myself."
Yeah.
So you literally are right on trend in that. But because oftentimes what we give to others is what we want to give to ourselves. It's actually, I think everyone watching and listening should really pay attention to that. How you are in your interactions with other people is oftentimes how you treat yourself. So really pay attention to that. Um, but it's a muscle, and you will not feel confident unless you are exercising that muscle. Because also the truth is, you're gonna suck if you just tried to write and like literally tried to publish, and it would, it wouldn't be as good unless you actually started to practice. I see it like an instrument, or if you were a singer, right? Like you have a voice. Listen, you know this better than others. You either have talent or you don't. There is a degree of that. Like, so, because my mom was a vocal coach for many years, and I see an analogy with it. She would listen to tapes of people sending in for competition, and both of us, I would know this. I'd be upstairs and I would listen to these tapes. Within 2 seconds, you know if somebody has, quote, a voice or not. What does a voice mean? It's like this ephemeral, there's something distinct about it that it stops you in your tracks. It gives you goosebumps. And you know this because you're in publishing, so you've read this in people's writing. They either have a voice or not. But is that it? No. There's so much work that goes into actually making it understood and out in the world. It doesn't exist unless you bring it out, though. Like, you have to cultivate it, you have to nurture it, you have to befriend it, you have to challenge it. I think you're having look at your writing like a relationship that you're having, similar to my analogy with like the fire, the stoking of the fire, or building a muscle in the gym. All of these analogies are the same in the sense of action is required. But it does not need to be public action. It does not need to be polished or professional. But it has to be consistent. So whether you are treating yourself, in this case, like a little professor, you would say, okay, I'm going to give every week with my 60 minutes that are spent for my inspiration bank. I'm going to challenge myself to do an exercise where, and then you can think back to when you went to school or whatever, but like, what would be a writing exercise that would get you playing again and knowing that you're not going to be that great? And that's actually the point. It's not to write well, it's just to write and to get more familiar with the discomfort of not being good at a thing that is meaningful to you. That, by the way, is very hard to do, especially if you kind of used to be good at it. I once coached a woman. Okay, somebody said, I disagree about writing. Everyone has a story to tell, just not everyone knows how to articulate it. 1,000%. We're saying the same thing, my friend on LinkedIn. I actually believe everyone has a story to tell, which is why I'm obsessed with what I do for a living, because I get to hear all these stories. It's really more of a question of, do you have a voice to tell it in writing form? I think it all could be taught, but some people are naturally gifted writers. But I do think it's I think more people could be writers than more people could be singers, to be honest. That's probably the case. But if you have an urge to do it, chances are you're actually a person who has a gift, because the urge is intuition. The urge is desire that's very deeply seated and beautiful and spiritual. So to deny that, it's no surprise that you might get to a place where you feel overwhelmed and just like a whole bunch of shit happening. So Yeah, so if anybody has an urge to do something, see that as a sign that you must do it. However, it's not, like I said, a ripping off the Band-Aid, like now you were going to go submit a book proposal. It's truly the getting more familiar with the discomfort of sucking at a thing that's meaningful to you. But that also is going to teach you an incredibly valuable lesson, which is learning to see progress differently than how we've been all socialized to see progress or to see success. We usually see it as outcome oriented or achievement oriented, right? Like, did I get this book published or essay? Did this essay get published? Did I get accepted to this school or not? Did my boss give me a raise or not? That is a surefire way to feel like shit ultimately, because you have literally outsourced your value to other people. And so much of that is out of your control. And then you waste a lot of energy spiraling about something you can't do. Whereas the sort of special secret was always in the doing and seeing progress as, did I show up to the page? So not even did I write 500 words. I actually hate it when people put work. Listen, God bless anybody who does anything that helps them. So I don't want to like trash that, but I feel very stifled if I say I have to write 500 words today, because shit happens. Sometimes you're writing, and because I'm writing a memoir right now, and you get stuck and you spend your whole time solving the stuckness. So you don't get the words on the page. But guess what? You get a pretty big breakthrough, or you learn something in the struggle. So I think it's more about dedicated time, or dedicated effort. So at least you can start seeing that you show up for yourself, and that will tie into the self-trust that you're building. Right now, you are in a self-trust regiment. Tell me, what are your thoughts and feelings about how even just like imagining writing for yourself consistently? What comes up for you there?
I mean, it's it's like I'm half and half. It's like I feel, when I think about it, it feels really good because it's like, oh my God, I'm like actually doing something for me that, and I loved writing. Like I just loved it. It was something that I just loved to do. And I had like so many stories swirling around. And so thinking about dedicating time to it feels really good again. And just sort of like, okay, yeah, like remembering something that I really loved. And then it also feels really scary.
Yeah.
It feels really scary. In terms of like, I think because I am somebody that's like, oh, it has to be good.
Yeah.
It has to be perfect, right? If that's obviously not going to happen. But it's like, I think that I'm already putting some of this weird like pressure on myself.
Yes.
And then of course it's this feeling of, oh my God, how do I start setting aside the time? Because even that feels like a lot.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't know why it feels so overwhelming, but it does.
Well, it feels overwhelming because it carries existential meaning. This is like your life. This is your life. So it actually should feel pretty intense. I'm going to comment on one thing you mentioned, and then I'm going to give an answer to my comment. So first, for anybody who's like, all right, I'm contemplating whether I should do this thing or not. If it feels lighter to you, if in your body you feel more energized, less pressure, yay. So the fear, I actually think, is good. We want something to be challenging you. So nervous, fear, I like that. If it was heavy, no, then there's I would pay attention to it and say, hey, maybe writing's not where we should begin. But if you felt an energizing or a lightness, we like that. The next thing I would ask you, and it's a rhetorical question here, is all the reasons this is going to be hard to do, or all of the obstacles in the way of doing it. So this is for anybody who's like, all right, I'm on board with carving out, let's just say 60 minutes a week to writing, or an activity that's going to bring me some inspiration and joy. Before you just be all happy and go do it, let's get realistic and go, what are all the reasons I'm not going to show up for this? And even if you write down some things that are a bit silly, like write them all down. And then ask yourself, how can I make it as easeful as possible to follow through? That is the key that I think so many people are missing, that will unlock a new change in their life. They think, oh, I figured out what to do. Now I go do it. No, because you're entrenched in your ways and you're sort of setting yourself up for failure. You got to always ask yourself, what's the easeful way of following through? And oftentimes the answers you come up with will be based on the obstacles. So I had, I'm writing this memoir right now. Like, I haven't officially told my agent, which I guess, all right, hey Meg, I'm writing a memoir. But I have 2 kids. I have twins. Like, I have a business. Like, I have no time and energy to do this. I am way more likely to do it if I have another person who's going to write, co-write while she's like on Google Hangout with me. I legit only wrote my 80 pages because I literally, shout out to Lex. She was writing her thing and we would do sprints together, because it turns out I also work really well when there's like a false sense of urgency. Kind of. So even within these writing sessions, which we were doing, I think up to 3 times a week, which by the way, start small. So just it's one 60-minute session or 2 30-minute sessions or 2 20-minute sessions or whatever, break it up. Find another person. Focusmate.com. You can body double. I actually think I might even start a thing where I'm like, yo, if you want to write, just join me, because I literally will not write if I don't have another person also behind the screen doing it. And it's kind of liberating to realize, wow, I didn't have to rely on willpower. I just needed to set up my environment better. So do think for yourself, what would increase the chance that you would show up?
Yeah, that honestly resonates so much for me. I definitely work better with a false sense of urgency too. And It's like, I don't know what that says about me. But the idea of having somebody that's like in it with me, doing the exercises with me, or just like kind of helping me be accountable, because that's really the thing. When I think about like all the reasons why I won't do the thing, I keep saying like, I don't have the time. I'm so tired. But if I had somebody to help keep me accountable, that I think would help me get started.
And what's really cool, which by the way, I'll send you an email after, because I currently have a client that I'm coaching, and then we do writing sessions on a Friday so you should come and we should do it, like, whether you want to do Friday or another day. And it's not for you, so please don't even thank me. I literally will not write if like somebody doesn't show up. So, but also thinking back to your career of being what my dad calls midwife to the creative process, because he's in publishing as well. You like to work in collaboration. So it makes sense also that you would want to write if there was another person, right? Like, you're drawn to that aspect of this experience as well. So yes, do that. Then this isn't going to be for everyone, but I would highly recommend, if anyone is trying to inject some joy into their life, do it first thing in the morning. So even if you say, oh, Claire, I'm too tired at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, start to train yourself to go to bed earlier, because if you start your day doing a thing you love, you're going to have a much better day. And it's going to act as that kind of protection I talked about of the rest of the day. When the chaos happens, you set the tone for centering self, and you will always return to that, like in your mind, when you're going through chaos during the day. So I legit, yeah, I mean, again, it's not gonna be right for everybody's schedules that they can work from like 6 to 7 in the morning or 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning, but that's my time that I do it. And I started small, I built up, and then I craved it. So this is same for anybody who, I use the working out analogy. I don't know why, because I don't work out, but let's just use the water analogy. I have a big water bottle that I drink. I never used to drink water, and that's because I'd have to get up and go get the water. Too hard. So now I have a big water bottle, and I noticed that if I don't drink this water, I am super dehydrated and I'm craving it. It's going to literally be the same thing with writing or any activity that brings you energy. If you do it consistently enough over time, you will start to crave it, and it will basically be that like self-fulfilling wheel that you want. Same thing goes for terrible stories we tell ourselves, like imposter syndrome. The more you feed that beast, the more it'll loop. Literally, it's the same thing. Like, wherever you're investing your energy is just compounding over time, which means you can change it. It's not easy because you're stuck in certain things that are out of your control, but you'll actually start to discover, wow, when I feed the inspiration piece of me in the morning, I start to crave it. It also has a cascading effect of protecting myself when I'm going through chaos. I'm also not doing the imposter thing anymore, or as much, because I trust that I have follow through to honor my desires. Like it will all of a sudden, one day you will wake up and go, wait, I just figured it all out. Huh? It's all the pieces that you're assembling now. So that's also part of my let's shift progress from the outcome of what may come from this to you really like celebrating the fact that you are figuring it out. This is actually where change is happening in the figuring out of it all. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you, and then, well, I'll just pause here because we've just been going on for about 30 minutes now. Where do you still have questions for me that I can answer?
Um, I think my biggest questions were sort of like, what are some like next steps and exercises I can do, right? To start like figuring out what brings me, like what's lighting me up and what I should start focusing on. And so um, all of this feels really great. And I guess I'm just wondering if there's any other maybe questions I can journal on or ask myself that might also help sort of get me thinking in a mindset of more like what is actually exciting me, what even part of my skill set do I actually like, because I realize that I really do like cheering people on. I really enjoy it, but it's also the piece that's burning me out. And so it's like maybe that's not the right path. I don't know.
You'll know that it's not the right path if you don't try. So we'll start with the exercises I gave you. There's definitely more things you can do, and you can also like, look up it in ChatGPT and like Google the stuff, and we'll be in touch, of course. But if you feel like you have done everything within your actually, you know what? Let me back it up. Here's a question I love to ask myself: is at the end of the day, a couple of questions. Where did my energy go, and where was my energy given? So energy out and energy in, making a list of all that. It'll be a lot easier for you to remember it if you're using Clockify, because you can just check Clockify and be like, oh yeah, I remember when I was doing that activity, how I felt. Or if you look at your calendar and you start putting your tasks into your calendar. So just like create a log for yourself. Where did energy, where was it going? Where was it given? And then out of the things where your energy is drained, ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, of that energy given, what was in my control? What was within my influence or ability to impact? And what was completely out of my control? And then moving forward, when this thing happens again, which it will, either exactly as it already did or in some new version, but kind of the same thing, because patterns are all here to be uncovered. See, how can I, in that moment, ask yourself, what can I do to control that I have complete control over? What's the action I can take? And like totally within so like I can take deep breaths here. I can have a mantra for myself, or see this person, for example, if it's a terrible person, it's like see them with their humanity or see them with humor. That's in your control, right? What can I do to impact or influence? It's like, do I need to be writing an email to them in a different way that, confirm or sort of establishes expectations better to them? Or do they need more direction from me? Like they need me to be kind of a parent figure here. Like that's something of influence, right? Like you can change. It's also within your control. You can change the email you write to them. But the third part, what can we control, or what do we have no control over? Well, it's their reaction, right? However, this person's emailing you or your boss or the market, we have no control over. And even just the acknowledgement of that is actually going to help you, because it's now going to allow you to hopefully start to get into the habit of spending energy only in the areas in which you actually will have impact or control.
Okay.
And this is going to take, somebody said to me the other day, like, you have to do something for 21 days for it to like sink in. So give yourself some space to get used to this. So knowing, even just like the practice of stopping and asking yourself these questions, that's going to take some time. And like I said, always just ask first, how do I make this more easeful to follow through? So is it a Post-it note? Is it a rubber band on your, or scrunchie that you have on your wrist that's a visual reminder? So notice and then you're going to get used to asking yourself this question. That's progress. Let yourself feel proud of that. This is actually changing your life. Like changing the moment to moment is changing your life. And because again, you are just building the self-trust of I'm in the driver's seat. I am choosing how I respond to all of the chaos. And when I do that, I will see things clearly. And when I see things clearly, the next action step, I'll feel more good, I'll feel confident to take. Speaking of next steps to take, sort of career wise, I mean, certainly continue writing. A few other things I would do is, and this is not so much career path. I mean, it is because like you might go in the direction of writing as your career path, but beyond writing, start to, I mean, you're already entrenched in the industry, but see if you can get into more conversations with writers, people who are doing this for a living, about how they feel about it, or when they think about when they got started, what that was like, or the finances. Like, see if you can get more information about the writing as a profession experience, and also be in more conversation with people who are modeling careers that you would like, because that expression, you can't be what you can't see, is true. And it's ironic because you were actually surrounded by people that can give you that, but you've only let them maybe see you in a certain light. If you could in some ways reintroduce yourself, I don't know what that would actually look like for you. I mean, it could be having a kind of vulnerable conversation with a few people you feel comfortable with. Start sharing this aspect, these dreams with people. It makes it real when you say it out loud. And then you get to see other people's paths and vulnerabilities, and they become more humanized. And then all of a sudden it seems more achievable, more attainable when you do that. It breaks the sort of, it takes it off its pedestal. That's part of the problem here is with our ideal life or dreams, it's too far away. How do we make it more sort of quotidien? Like, how do we make it every day to you? So that's actually more of a question for you. I think if you want to share some thoughts right here in this moment, that's fine. But if you want to, think about it later, that's too. But the challenge is, how do I take my dreams off of a pedestal?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, I think it's like removing the perfection of it. Also, it really is just, I feel like so much of it is self-talk and just not, telling myself that can't be me. Like, that can't be me. I can't do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And you'll continue to tell that story unless you see proof otherwise. So that's the thing. You can't, in my mind, you sort of can't like just snap your fingers and now tell yourself a new story and actually believe it. That's the part of the problem when people try to make change, is they say these affirmations to themselves and wonder why they're not working. And it's because it's bullshit. They can see right through it. Their affirmations aren't real unless somehow they are living it already. Again, it's this damn chicken and the egg, right? So so again, it's the demystifying the dream, or dismantling the dream. And they're sort of sad too, right? Like they say, never meet your heroes. It's like, let's say you start getting into conversations with like these writers, who you like really hold in high esteem, but then they tell you how sort of terrible the process of writing was, or how they make a lot of money, but never feel like they have enough money. And then you're like, oh God, no one's happy.
Yeah.
So, but it like evens the playing field in so many ways. I think doing that work in tandem with the writing, in tandem with the self-protection, in tandem with the what do I command, control, release, you're going to see a lot of change happening, I would say, in the next 21 days if you do this consistently. And then keeping your eye open if you're truly in an environment that is not good, because there's only so much you can help yourself with. If we're just in a situation that's constantly taking from you, we have to change the situation. So it would be, what is the problem that I solve? And now who do I want to solve it for? Okay. And most likely the next best bet for you would probably be kind of what you do now, but in a more like freelance capacity. I mean, I have a woman who I call her a book doctor, right? And so she came from publishing. She was an editor and then freelanced book doctors. So sort of midway between kind of, she's not a ghostwriter. She's basically an editor for freelance, but does a lot more. And then she just co-wrote, it was very interesting. She co-wrote a book with two other people. and it got huge, fabulous reviews with like lots of awards, and it got optioned for a freaking TV show. So, there you go. I mean, listen, I don't want to like spotlight the achievements too much because that's not the point. But she went from publishing industry to freelance to co-writing, and maybe her next thing will be solo writing. I don't know. But start to look into that. Like, how did other, and I'm sure you already have, but like, how did other people go from what you do into either adjacent careers or total pivots? So you're not going to feel confident to walk a path if you don't even know what the path is. Start by researching the people who've done something new in a that you kind of admire it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, really, for like all of this. It's been hugely helpful.
Awesome. That makes me so happy. And yeah, my book doctor, I sent her this memoir that I want to write, but first I want to get an essay published because that can help with the book deal. And I shared it with her and she's like, do you mind if I edit it? And I was like, I was hoping you would say that, but
you're like, please.
But yeah, I was like hoping, but I don't have any money. So like, I wasn't going to ask you, but please edit everything. And then she like tore it to shreds. And I was like, but was it still good? You know what I mean? Like, of course it's all therapy. Everything is there. Any human interaction is like a level of therapy in a sense. But yeah, just see where you can take the pressure off of yourself as a first step and know that that is doing actually quite a bit of work with a compounding effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Really, thank you so much. This has been really incredible. So appreciative of it.
Well, I'm appreciative. I know very much what you do and your work. I mean, listen, my dad's in publishing. I've seen it on the other side as a writer. It's intense. You just see this as a moment to learn to derive self-worth from your own actions and not from others and the paychecks associated. You're really learning all this stuff. You're right where you need to be for the lessons that are going to be most impactful for the second half of your life, which is welcome to it.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, you just had the first half. And just always say, can anyone learn lessons without going through hard shit? I don't know. So that's why you literally had to go through this for you to realize what's most important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No way around it. No way around it. Okay, Amy, thank you for your bravery. And thank you for everybody for watching. And I'll see you all next Wednesday for our next caller. Super appreciate you. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, bye. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We had some tech issues in the beginning, but hopefully it all worked out. Judging by your comments, it seems like this resonated. I love coaching. I have availability for a few more clients. So if you want to reach out, you can find me at coachmeclaire.com. This series is every Wednesday through August at noon Pacific time, and it is in celebration of my recently launched Substack, Work in Progress, that takes coaching sessions and basically shows you the insights, because I think there's so much to be learned in these kinds of interactions. As you just saw, I have goosebumps, and maybe a few of you do too. All right, best of luck, lots of love now. Go get paid.